The Early Identification of Autism project was focused on, could we look at children whose needs had maybe been missed, and could we look at identifying children early on so that they could receive appropriate support.
I think it's extremely important to identify autism as early as possible to get children the support they need, particularly with education, and being able to get that for girls as well, particularly because they do present differently to boys. Masking is much more common with Sophia than it ever was with our son.
Autism is definitely different for girls because, well, compared to boys, it's different for sure. And it's harder to find it in girls because of the masking. So your senses, like hearing, touch, smell, stuff like that, autism can heighten it, which can change your view of the world, as everything's much more than for a normal person.
Usually it's more obvious in boys because they don't really mask, but with girls they just can put on a smile and say everything's okay when it's really not. It just means you're slightly different, and that's okay. No one really cares whether you're different or not. Everybody stands out and fits in at the same time.
Cambridgeshire's Early Identification of Autism project decided to just look at girls. We did this for a number of reasons. We know that girls are often engaged in something that we sometimes refer to as social camouflage, and their needs are not as apparent in school, and they are really showing up when they get home. And this is really difficult for our paediatricians who do the diagnosis of autism, because they're looking for a triangulated view, and often the girls present very differently at home as they do in school.
Yes, the Fenland and East Cambridgeshire opportunity area is unique because of its rurality. So many of the areas that were identified by the DFE are urban areas where schools are quite close together, transport's quite good, whereas what we find across Fenland and East Cambs is that transport links are really poor, and getting across just that district, if you like, can take a long time.
I think because girls copy and they learn how to behave and how to interact, but internally they might have struggled with that, and then that struggle, I think, comes out when they get home. They let go and they have outbursts there because they can't manage anymore.
We hear anecdotal information from our secondary colleagues where their anxiety is increasing, then their attendance is dropping, or parents are electively home educating as a way of trying to manage difficulty.
The project approach allowed us to come away from those traditional means of assessment and go on those day-to-day observations, as well as it allowed us to act on the parent voice as well. So through the project and through some of our evidence that we've collected, a lot of it does come from the family's input, and actually many of the girls are quite academically able, their language is strong, so actually in school they are functioning.
Sophia is extremely creative. I mean, her writing is very advanced for her age, and most of her teachers, when they read her work, they have commented, wow, she writes in layers, she develops all the characters, and it's a major strength, I think, yeah. She finds the school environment particularly difficult. I mean, she suffers with the sensory issues to a great degree, and she becomes very emotional at school because, her senses are just heightened, and noise especially. Those things don't happen at home, where they obviously do at school with a lot more people. Everything's kind of amplified.
So I think Rosie's strengths are the fact that she is a very literal child. She sees things for what they are. Everyone knows where they are with Rosie. She is really special to me for that reason, I think, because I'm very envious of the fact that I would like to be more forthright and direct with people. Although she sees that as a negative at the moment, I'm hoping as she gets older, she will realise it's actually a really good trait to be able to have, to be honest with people and not necessarily worry too much about what people might think. And even though she overthinks in certain areas of her life, she's quite happy to voice her opinion, and I find that very admirable.
I disagreed with this a few times, but I said that we're better at hiding it than boys usually. Maybe not the actual autism, but the way that we show it probably.
Asking targeted questions during the project was really useful. Having somebody observe the girl and especially talk to the girl so that we hear the voice of the child as well is something that we definitely need to take forward, I think. I would hope that we could shape the project and make that a way of assessing for the future. Maybe not just girls, but all children with autism.
The EIA for Sophia has been fantastic. I mean, it's allowed that diagnosis to be done in a very short space of time. As I say, we have an older child who we went through the long-winded process, which obviously it is. You have to pull different people in from different areas. And this really has been a godsend to get Sophia the support that she needs in the amount of time. And obviously she's transitioning to high school very soon. So to be able to do that via this scheme has been incredible, really.
So the multidisciplinary team meetings was the strongest and most effective part of the project, because I feel strongly that if I'd have made the usual referral for a neurodiversity assessment, these girls wouldn't have met the threshold and that referral would have bounced back. So having that opportunity to speak with external agencies and a community paediatrician allowed us the opportunity to explain what we see and experience on a day-to-day and what the families experience on that day-to-day. So I felt it was a stronger way of communicating the difficulties that these young children have.
I think with the diagnosis being able to be given before the student transfers to secondary school, it's had a huge impact, because in year 5 and 6, we often find that girls who've been really good at masking up until now, the children probably would not score on the ADOS test if they did end up with a paediatric referral. When they're in an environment where it's much busier, they've got lots more people they have to contend with, a lot bigger environment, then the girls generally find it much more difficult to mask, because I think the demands on their social skills have been so overwhelming that they've not been able to cope, and there's been a rapid decline in their mental health.
Through this project, we've learned an awful lot. We've learned about different ways that we might be able to work, about how our current systems might be able to be flexed or changed to make things better for children and their families. Paediatricians and I are meeting very soon to look at whether there are things that we can take from the learning of this project to look at doing things differently. And we're hoping from this project that we'll be able to provide training for our schools. We of course hope for our individual students that were involved in this project and their families that knowing and having the diagnosis makes a difference for them, although we appreciate that for some students it might take a bit of time to adjust to the diagnosis. We hope that knowing yourself better has a really lasting impact on how you move through life.